different section of the Kimura this week. All right, so kind of building off last week, we're assuming our partner is not letting us put his hand to the mat. Okay, so again, our more robust north-south Kimura position here. Okay, just some basics. If you weren't here last week, my middle finger is over the ball of his wrist. Okay, my elbow is right above his elbow, and I'm trying to reach for my own knuckles here. Okay, you can lock your hands. Good. And then remember, the more he like tenses up here, the more this tells us we have the leverage to rotate him to the side for the north-south Kimura. Okay, and then just like last week, we're stepping over. Okay, so we're going to be looking at what we call a side triangle. Okay, and we're going to be paying attention to the bottom arm when we do this. All right, so like let's take a look at a really simple setup here. Okay, probably the most simple thing to look at is if this elbow, this bottom elbow is open or closed. Okay, right now it's open. Okay, if I see that, it's going to be a very easy thing to step my foot into that gap. Okay, and a lot of times this will happen by accident too. Okay, once I've done this, I've essentially planted the seed for the side triangle. Okay, now from here, okay, you might be thinking, well, if I ended up here accidentally, why don't I just pull my foot out? Okay, guys, remember, he's going to be squeezing pretty tight here because he doesn't want to get Kimura'd. So sometimes your foot will be kind of stuck in here. This will be a good reason to actually maybe add this to your arsenal. Okay, so when that's the case, I'm leaning forwards and I'm falling to the side. I have the submission. Now, very important here, look at my right knee. Okay, this is usually going to clean itself up, but you don't want to keep this leg under your partner's back at all. Okay, so every time I fall, as I fall, I'm stretching this leg so his head ends up basically resting on my quad and hamstring here. Okay, and then from here, I'm going to stretch this leg through too, and we can lock an initial like loose triangle here. Okay, now this is a good position in the sense that I have a good control of both of his shoulders, a good pin. Okay, so to further that, all right, we're going to kind of go against our intuition here and let go of the Kimura grip. All right, so I'm going to trust that I can at least pinch this with my elbow and hold it with one hand, surprisingly strong. Okay, we'll look at other controls for this in a second, but I'll just add the no-gi one first. If you need to, remember you can also blade this. Okay, but hugging should do the trick a lot of the time. Okay, this hand, I'm going to look to control his far elbow. Two choices here. You can go through the gap and grab here, or you can just simply go around and grab here. They're both fine. I'm not looking to necessarily dominate this arm and pull it across. I'm just looking to monitor it like I would in a regular triangle. Okay, I just don't want this elbow to get too wide. We'll talk about in a second why that's a problem. Okay, now to finish the triangle, okay, unless you're like really gifted with long legs, okay, this can be hard to do sometimes. Okay, even for me, I'm pretty flexible. Okay, I find that difficult. So the main adjustment here is going to be to turn to your stomach. Okay, so right here, the foot that's under the head, I'm going to go active toes. Guys, I'm going to do my best to not let go of these grips as I adjust, so I don't surrender any control of the position. Okay, so this foot's pushing. It's helping me rotate belly down. Watch my left leg. I'm like internally rotating this knee, and then I'm curling the pit of my knee around the tricep side of his shoulder. Okay, the job of this leg is to curl. The job of the bottom leg is to stay as straight as possible as I rotate back, and that'll give me a much stronger bite for the triangle here. Okay, curl, straight, and then as you guys roll back, that's where you should get that strong finishing position. Make sense? If I'm in a position where I know I'm doing a submission that cooks people slower, okay, especially if I don't necessarily get the bite as deep as I do like when I drill it. Okay, again, I'm going to use that rule of 10. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, if I get to like 8 or 9, that tells me I need to make an adjustment. A few different things you can do with this hand. Okay, remember our one-handed Kimura grip, we can always blade our wrist. Okay, so now like just for fun, move this arm around. All right, that's going to be a pretty good option for no-gi. Okay, if we're in the gi, we do have a few other options here. Like you could do just the traditional thing and grab your own lapel. Okay, that'll keep his elbow tight to your chest. Down the line, maybe we'll have a whole separate class on this too. You can do things like pull his lapel through his belt too, and also use this to hold the wrist. Remember from your Kimura Basics, if you ever Kimura somebody and their hands on the floor, you're going for a Kimura, okay? Not only that, but like if his hand's on the floor, even if I want to try to lift him up, his body is so separated that that's actually kind of difficult to do. Now when Lalo locks his hands, again, now I have leverage, okay? All right. So for the first scenario here, let's just assume there's like a gap between his elbow and his ribs. I'm just gonna step in that gap, okay? Then from here, I'm gonna start to lean. And guys, watch. To avoid getting this leg stuck under the back, as you fall down, okay, we can already make that a detail where we're stretching our leg out, okay? Okay, we're staying strong with the Kimura grip, okay? Remember, if you need to add this where you blade your forearm, that's fine, but at the very least, just make sure you're hugging the elbow tight. Okay, now I'm gonna take this hand, reach through or reach around. You can keep your, okay. Now, legs straight. See my bottom foot here? That's gonna help me drive belly down. Okay. Guys, the whole time I'm doing this, I'm trying to touch my hips to the side of his head. That's gonna help me close space here. Curl, straighten, and then as I fall to the side, I can look to lock here, start to back heel to make the press. So the dilemma we're offering him is to keep his hands locked, which we just looked at. That's where we're gonna try to strangle him. And then in this case, if he unlocks his hands, okay? So, we'll start from the beginning here. Everything's the same. Okay, stepping through the gap. All right, falling to the side. Okay, well, you can keep your hands locked. All right. As I pull this, he's gonna pull back. And it's just like a regular triangle where like, you're taught to pull the arm across, but it never quite ends up like that, right? Okay. Now, let's build off of that thought here. In some scenarios, if he knows he's gonna get choked here, or he just fights with his hands unlocked, he's gonna unlock his hands and he's gonna keep this elbow quite wide. So I, A, can't reach this arm effectively, and B, when he does this, he's wedging on my feet. So when I try to lock here, same problem, it's not very good. However, what he is sacrificing is protecting this arm, okay? So we'll look at a different pathway in no-gi next, okay? Let's say for now, and this is gonna be common in the gi, he's grabbing his belt, okay? Now the good news here is things that are usually difficult with Kimuras can actually be easier here because we're very aligned with the submission, all right? So from here, I'll go back to my middle finger grip over the ball of the wrist. I'll grab my own hand here. Guys, I'm actually gonna extend a little bit. Just make sure whenever you're doing a Kimura that this elbow does not go above his. He's gonna get his elbow to the floor sometimes. Go ahead. And that can lead to an escape on that arm, okay? So my elbow's above his. Now, all I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to extend my arms to pin his hand to the floor, okay? You guys see, it's actually really hard for him to hold on when I do that. Now, I have a Kimura grip and the hand's on the floor. Who knows what I should do? Basic Kimura, right? Yep, finish the Kimura. Whenever I have a grip and his hand's on the floor, let's try to find that Kimura finish, okay? So, the way we do that from here, similar to how we went belly down to adjust the triangle, okay? I'm gonna push off my toes. I'm gonna start to get up to my elbow, and or you guys can also use your forehead, okay? But the goal remains the same. We need to get up to this elbow, okay? So from here, as I rotate, I'm trying to get my weight into my back elbow. Now guys, really important as you get up here, okay, this is what I've been seeing a lot this week. Look at my back leg, that's my left leg. Okay. When you come up here, do not leave this leg like this. Jason, start to push into me a little bit. I have no base there. Guys, remember your basic Kimura finish. You want to sprawl this leg and go active toes. Push into me now. See, now I'm not moving. Okay. This foot stays posted over the head. We want his head past our knee. Okay. If his arm is a bit straighter here, remember we want to motorcycle our wrists. That means, right now I have a bent wrist. That means I want to curl my wrist so his hand touches his spine. Okay. This is already good. A lot of people are going to tap here, but he has little mobility, especially being younger. Okay. So guys, I'm really gonna cause damage here. If before I apply the finish, I take his elbow, and again, I bring it in a straight line as much as possible with his shoulder. So bring that elbow up, you'll feel the arm get really tight. And then a small pull there and you'll get a good finish. Okay. I'm giving you guys a method right now to push the hand to the floor. Okay, and even in no-gi sometimes, like, this will just be so frustrating that this won't work. Okay, so you might be thinking like, well, what if you can't get the hand to the floor? In this scenario, it goes back to the Kimura Basics. Okay. So worst case scenario here, we can just take this position and use it to reset everything. Okay. So what that means is I would still do the same movement here, up to my elbow. Okay, his arm is connected to his body. Now from here, we're right back at the beginning, and now we can step back over. So everything's the same. Okay. Remember guys, if you can't step through, you can just simply bring your heel around the elbow too. Okay, and then as you fall back here, if you just back heel, that's really hard for him to hold on to. And then I can stretch my legs through for basically the same position. Okay. You see already Jason is not elected to lock his hands. So this is going to be quite difficult sometimes. Okay. If he's grabbing his belt, that's like the worst case scenario. If he's not, this is going to be even easier. Okay. Now remember, we're taking our arms and we're guiding everything this way with a really strong stiff arm here. Okay. Now guys, watch. You see I'm laying on my right shoulder. I'm going to get up to my right elbow. Again, if you need to, as you push with your toes here, you can bring your weight into your head and then put your back elbow on the ground. And then from here, we go into our sprawl. Okay. You see when I step over the head, his head should be past my legs. Okay. You straighten your arm a little bit. Okay. Bent wrists. Again, you can tap a lot of people here, but this is a lot of power. Curl your wrists so his hand touches his spine. And now it's going to be a very mechanical finish. And again, go really slow at this part because it's going to be already pretty tight for some of you. Take his elbow and get it in a straight line with his shoulder. You'll feel it get really tense and lock up. And then a little bit of a pull here and you'll get the finish. Arguably, like, you'll see a lot of heavyweights prefer this too. Okay. If Ulysses closes his elbow, you're like, okay, I can't step through, this isn't here, okay? We can look at like a shearing method too, all right? So from here, I could also look just to bring, you can keep your elbow close, yeah. Just to get my heel wedged into his elbow here, okay? And then as I fall, I can look to just back heel. And that's like a pretty strong way to strip his grip here, okay? Let's go with a little more specific grip right here, okay? A lot of times, like, this can be pretty easy to pull off the stomach. And when people feel that, they a lot of times grab their own leg. Yeah. Okay. So this will kind of go back to last week as well. We're going to go back to that pinch grip. Okay. Now from here, very similar to that grip break, I'm peeling, and my job is to try to get this hand clear of, like, we'll call this the gripping zone. Jesus. Okay. That's worse than Japanese terms. Like gripping zone being like, I don't want to stop here and switch to something again and have them grab, or grab here, okay? We want to go to the non-gripping zone, behind the leg. Okay, so here, all right. This grip will turn this into a wrist lock very fast. In my opinion, especially after a lot of the footage I watched this weekend, you will see a lot of people get wrist locked here, okay? So, like any other wrist lock, not just this grip, but this pull on the elbow right away gives us the essentials for a wrist lock. When you wrist lock somebody, the elbow needs to be stopped, okay? And there needs to be hinging, folding pressure on the hand here, okay? If he does not react to this and he doesn't do anything, I'm just gonna keep this grip here, go hand over hand, and then, crunch into finish, okay? I thought I was doing that slow. Now, I always like to throw this detail in, okay? One of the main defenses here that people will do when they wrist lock, or they're about to get wrist locked, is they'll make a fist. Okay? That makes it harder to hinge the hand. So instead of going hand over hand right away, I can take my bottom hand, get a good wrist grip, re-pinch, and start to squeeze. What you should feel as the person taking this is it's really compressing and subsequently like weakening all the tendons and what other bullshit is in there. Okay. So here, squeeze. I'm not a doctor. You guys see? You almost, by doing that, when that tension starts to release, the wrist lock can actually be worse a lot of times. Okay, I'm gonna go really slow. You can even relax if you want a little bit. If that's ever not enough, you're still gonna go hand over hand. Sorry, you did a good finish there. You okay? Yeah. So watch. Now my point is, even though we're in like a good position here, we have control of both shoulders, okay? Guys, when you strip this grip, if you start changing things around too much, this hand's gonna shoot away and move. And again, it's gonna attach to something else, or like you just simply won't have a very good wrist lock. So watch, don't change things too much. Strip it, make sure you can't grip, and then pull everything in. If you do that fast enough, he will not have time to ball his wrist. If I already have Ulysses' wrist here, and he tries to ball his wrist, it doesn't matter. I'm still gonna wrist lock him. Okay? So don't do it like this, don't do it this fast, obviously, but that's the mentality. Like I'm trying to rip this off here, and then I'm trying to fold and compress right away. And you guys see, look at my left arm. Okay? A lot of you are keeping this elbow too loose. You're sitting here cranking on your partner's wrist, and that's because there's mobility right here. Okay? Remember, whenever we do a joint lock, a good rule of thumb is you're trying to isolate the joint that is above the joint that you're trying to injure. In this case, I'm trying to injure his wrist, so I want to control his elbow. Okay, move your arm around. See, it's on a swivel. And that's where the catch is going to be good. Okay, so he grabs his own leg. Heel. Okay. That's what we just did. Strip, cover, curl. Now, what a lot of people are going to do here, he knows he wants his wrist to go this way, he's going to try to bend it the other way. And a very strong way to do that is as he bends it the other way, he's going to ball his fist up. That makes it really hard, even with two hands, to fold the wrist here. Whenever people do this, if you feel like you still have good control of the hand, you can disengage this elbow for a second, grab his wrist, re-engage, okay? Okay, keep this strong. Okay, now watch when I squeeze. It's gonna weaken all the tendons in his wrist here. Then that's gonna unhinge, and then I can go right back. Okay. You get a good spin around armbar. Sometimes as this happens, especially, if you guys do spin around arm bars with a lot of momentum, your foot ends up here, and it's not the best spot for an arm bar. Okay. Meaning, like I don't have a cross face, like you can sit up easily. So a lot of times if this ever happens, again, we can just fall to our side. Look to lock up here as well. We're like passing guard here, and we find ourselves going for Kimura trap. Okay, again, this is where we would be if we lost the arm from the original setup. If you guys start to like this, anytime you can bring the leg over the head and scoop the arm a bit, okay, we can set this up. This is gonna take us back to another side triangle position here, okay? So we're just gonna start here. Ramiro's gonna lock his hands, okay? All right, so a couple things. I don't want him to finish the single leg, okay? So I can't let him turn the corner on me. So like any half guard or single leg here, I'm gonna have an overhook. Now, if he's already up in turtle on a single leg here, this whizzer on the armpit's not gonna be as strong. So we're gonna switch to what we call a belly whizzer here, okay? It's gonna be very helpful for stopping him from turning the corner. Last thing, the next thing we should be doing when we're sprawling on a single leg or a double leg is covering his head, okay? So I'm gonna push his head down and I'm gonna step over it, okay? Now guys, make sure when you do this, you're not leaning too far this way. You could get elevated here. There's some pretty powerful finishes there, okay? Which can also lead to the triangle, but we'll talk about that later. All right. So once I get here, I'm not leaning over him too much. I'm gonna take this heel and I'm, again, gonna bring it to his armpit, okay? So you guys see when I do this, it's like I'm in crucifix. My heel is touching my knee, okay? Now I still have that belly whizzer. I have a free hand now. I'm gonna use this free hand to pull myself to the side. And as I do that, I'm gonna pull on the six here, okay? Now, very important, as we come to the side here, This is not a triangle yet. I'm not winning yet. Ramiro still has hands locked on me here, okay? I need to keep my head higher than his. This is technically a scramble, okay? If I pull him down and I lay down here and he unlocks his hands, he will get on top of me, okay? Now if he unlocks his hands and tries to get on top, I'm already right there. So very important, guys, here you stay up on your hands. Okay, so we're gonna start here. He's gonna get a single leg. I'm gonna get a belly whizzer. I'm gonna step over his head, and I'm gonna get heel to knee here. Okay, I pull him to his side, and now we're here. Okay, so to get to the triangle, I need to make a switch off with my feet here. So right away, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start to back heel my top leg, so I can start to bring my bottom leg through, and then again, heel goes to the armpit. Now from here, I'm starting to get a triangle. Now it's going to be a safe thing to grab his wrist, go under, and get my Kimura grip again. You guys see it? We're in the same spot now. We'll just start like this. Okay. Guys, this is going to happen to you all the time. It's very common. On the side of the single leg, that's where we get the whizzer, so he's not cutting angles on me and finishing the takedown. Okay? I'm covering the head with my hips, and then once we get there, we can start to bring the heel into the armpit. Remember, guys, when you're here, you're not loading your weight up on their back. A good wrestler is going to elevate you here. And again, you could still triangle them there, but you guys can see that's not a preferable position for me. Okay, heel to knee. Okay, I got the belly whizzer. I'm posting, and we're pulling into the mat with the whizzer. Okay? So you guys see, very important. We're not in a dominant position yet. So I'm keeping my head higher than his in case there's a scramble here. Okay? And that can happen as you pass your legs off here. Okay? So, getting right to business. This leg goes forward. In simple terms, this leg goes back. Okay? My goal is to get, once again, the top heel to his armpit as I bring this leg under his head. Okay? So, and as we fall back here, we could make our transition. Okay? Guys, if you try to cut this up too much, you give him more chances to do things like turn. He might not even escape, but if I just fall back and I don't grab anything yet, you get turned this way, make it annoying, that way. I think this happened to some of you guys who are in the live drills. Okay? So look to establish control as early as possible. So now, again, we have control of both shoulders here. Then I'll reach through. I want you guys to do everything the exact same way. So get your belly whizzer, cover the head, step up to the armpit. Okay, so last time, and this happens a lot with different turtle attacks where you're trying to break somebody down to a dip. Okay, we posted and we pulled here, but especially if he's stronger than me, he could end up bringing me in the other direction. Okay, and at the very, he could bring me all the way over, but at the very least, you guys see I don't have leverage to pull him this way anymore. So from here, I can look to just switch sides and pull him the other way. Now, there's a fundamental problem with this one. My leg is firmly wedged underneath him here, okay? So you guys see, if I try to kick this straight, it's really difficult, okay? So, we're gonna make a pass off to what we call we'll still call it a side triangle because it is, okay? So from here, I'm gonna open my top heel, okay? With the purpose of bringing this leg up this time, okay? Now, my goal here is to get my foot above my own knee, all right? And then from here, I can pass off and lock without any interference. Now, sometimes here, this happens fairly often if you guys watch competition footage. We can internally rotate our knees and back heel, and sometimes get a tight finish there. Okay, but what's gonna happen a lot is, again, very similar to last week, he's not gonna stay on his side because there's no defense here. Ulysses is probably gonna get up to his knees here. Okay? And then a lot of times we end up in stuff like this. And again, you guys saw this last night, you could still finish here. Now, we also have the option here for a big reset back to the original position. So it's gonna be very similar to the rolling arm bar for those of you that are familiar. Are you okay? You're gonna pass out?
No, I'm good. I can't hear you that much.
So, I just wanna make sure. All right, so I'm gonna keep the belly whizzer. Guys, I'm trying to bring my head basically around the corner here, and I'm gonna grab his shin. Now, just like the rolling arm bar, I'm looking to load his weight on me, and I'm looking to pull him the other way. You guys see when that happens? We're once again back in the same position here. When you guys go to bring this foot up, you should grab your shin, so you can get your foot above your knee. That's going to make that pass off easier. And remember, guys, if he stays here, make the choke, okay? And then it's going to be easier to load him if he gets up to his knees here, okay? And remember, we want to bring our head around the corner as much as possible. He wants to keep this weight, his weight this way, to stop me from loading him on top. So that's why I need to come this way. Try to run away. That's what gives me the leverage here. Everything's the same. We're just falling the other way this time, guys. Belly whizzer, cover the head, heel to knee. Okay. And this is the game that's going to be played from a lot of different turtle scenarios. I go to post and bail him, but he shifts the other way with the single leg. So I shift to the other side. Okay. Now from here, as I open this elbow, if I make a pass off here, Matt's going to slip out. So that detail of getting this foot above your knee is essential here. So I can grab my shin in here, try to slip your arm out. See, better pass off to the triangle. And then again, if he stays on his side, you guys can look to body lock here, pinch your knees and back heel. Sometimes you'll get a tap. Surprisingly tight. Matt's gonna get up to his knees to defend. If that's the case, again, you guys could still look to finish the triangle the same way. If not, we're gonna circle back to the original position. Body lock, get your head around the corner, grab the shin, load his weight, pull him over, and then switch back to the same thing again.